The tranquil grounds of St. Catherine's Monastery in northern New Hampshire held no hint of the mystery that would haunt it for years to come. Nestled among dense pine forests and overlooking a small, pristine lake, the monastery had been a sanctuary for contemplation since 1892. Sister Agnes Thorne, 32, had been a resident for 7 years, known for her detailed botanical illustrations and quiet devotion. In the autumn of 2007, she embarked on what was supposed to be a standard 3-day spiritual retreat in a cabin on the monastery's grounds. The structure stood a mile from the main buildings, designed for solitude and reflection, a practice Sister Agnes had undertaken twice yearly since joining the order. Former groundskeeper Martin Decker recalls the day she left. It was October 17th, Wednesday morning. Clear skies but cold. I remember helping her carry a small suitcase and her art supplies. She seemed peaceful, happy even. Said she was looking forward to the silence. The cabin, though isolated, was equipped with basic necessities and an emergency radio. Sister Agnes was expected to return on Saturday for evening prayers. By Friday afternoon, the weather had turned. A heavy storm system moved through the region, bringing freezing rain and wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Sister Evelyn Porter, then head of the order, made a call to the retreat cabin to check on Sister Agnes. It was our protocol during severe weather. The call went unanswered, but we weren't immediately concerned. The retreat was meant for disconnection after all. When Sister Agnes failed to appear for Saturday evening prayers, concern began to grow. Sister Evelyn, along with 2 other nuns and the groundskeeper, made their way to the cabin through the muddy, leaf-strewn paths. The scene they discovered would become the first perplexing piece of a 15-year puzzle. The cabin was immaculate, Sister Evelyn would later tell investigators. The bed was made, dishes washed and put away. Her suitcase was there with clothes neatly folded inside. Her art supplies were arranged on the desk, sketches of local plant life half completed. The only things missing were her walking shoes, jacket, and Sister Agnes herself. The emergency radio sat silent on its charger. The cabin's guest log showed entries for Wednesday and Thursday, brief, serene reflections on nature and prayer. But Friday's page remained blank. There was no sign of forced entry, no indication of a struggle, nothing to suggest why a dedicated nun would walk away from her temporary dwelling during or after a severe storm. Initial search efforts focused on the extensive woods surrounding the cabin. Local volunteers, state police, and trained dogs combed the area for any trace of Sister Agnes. The most puzzling aspect for investigators was the complete absence of a trail. Heavy rain had washed away potential footprints, but even the dogs couldn't pick up a scent beyond the cabin porch. Detective James Harmon, who led the initial investigation, noted the peculiarity of the case. In most disappearances, there's something, a direction, a witness, a reason. With Sister Agnes, it was as if she simply vanished from a locked room. The cabin door was found locked from the inside, with a key still in the lock. We had to consider every possibility from voluntary departure to foul play, but evidence for any theory was frustratingly absent. The lake adjacent to the property was dragged. Helicopters with thermal imaging scanned the broader forest. Missing person flyers featuring Sister Agnes's serene face, oval, with thoughtful green eyes behind simple glasses, appeared across 3 states. Her family, a brother in Oregon and elderly parents in Vermont, could provide no insight into why she might leave or where she might go. Agnes was devoted to her calling, her brother Michael Thorne told reporters in 2008. She wasn't someone with secrets or troubles. She found her purpose at St. Catherine's. The idea that she would just walk away makes no sense. As weeks turned to months, the investigation stalled. Sister Agnes had no credit cards to track, no social media presence, no personal vehicle. Her modest bank account remained untouched. Her passport, found in her room at the main monastery building, had been unused for years. The case gradually transformed from an active investigation to a cold file, revisited annually, but yielding no new leads. Life at St. Catherine's continued, though the mystery left an indelible mark on the small religious community. The retreat cabin, after being thoroughly processed by forensics teams, was eventually converted into a chapel dedicated to missing persons. Sister Evelyn retired in 2012, carrying the weight of the unsolved disappearance. "Not knowing is its own form of penance," she said in a rare interview. "And we pray for answers, but also for acceptance of God's timeline, not ours." For 15 years, the disappearance of Sister Agnes Thorne remained one of New England's most perplexing missing person cases. Theories ranged from the practical to the improbable. She had been taken by someone who left no trace. She had chosen to leave religious life and established a new identity. She had become disoriented in the storm and perished in some remote section of the vast forest beyond the search perimeter. Without evidence, none could be dismissed entirely. Then, on a bright June morning in 2022, a maintenance worker at St. Mary's Cathedral in Portland, Maine, 90 miles from St. Catherine's, made a discovery that would reopen the dormant case. While preparing for morning mass, he noticed something unusual protruding from beneath the cushion of a wooden bench in a rarely used side chapel. It was a small, leather-bound book with the letters A.T. stamped on the cover. I almost threw it in the lost and found, maintenance supervisor Keith Landon would later explain, but when I opened it and saw the dates, something told me this might be important. The journal contained entries from October 2007, written in a neat, precise hand. The name Sister Agnes Thorne appeared on the inside cover, along with the address of St. Catherine's Monastery. The final entry was dated October 19th, the day of the storm, when Sister Agnes was still presumed to be at the retreat cabin. Detective Sophia Reeves of the Cold Case Unit received the journal within hours of its discovery. The cold cases often hinge on overlooked details or new technologies. Rarely do you get something as potentially significant as a victim's own words from the day they disappeared. The journal entries began routinely enough. Meditations on scripture, observations about nature, sketches of leaves and berries found near the cabin. But the tone shifted in the entries from October 18th and 19th. Sister Agnes wrote of a growing certainty and the clarity that comes with true purpose. She mentioned a visitor, referred to only as Father M, who had apparently come to the cabin on Thursday evening. "Our conversation has confirmed what I've suspected for months," she wrote. "The path forward requires courage and secrecy. I pray for strength as I take these next steps." The final entry, written in what appeared to be a hurried hand, read, "The storm provides cover. Father M will collect me at the North Trail Junction after Vespers. What we're undertaking must remain hidden, even from those I love most. May God forgive this necessary deception." The journal's discovery prompted an immediate reinvestigation. Who was Father M? Why had the journal appeared in a cathedral 90 miles away 15 years later? And most importantly, what had become of Sister Agnes Thorne? Detective Reeves began by compiling a list of all clergy with first names beginning with M, who had any connection to St. Catherine's in 2007. 3 names emerged: Father Michael Donovan, who had served as chaplain at the monastery; Father Matthew Keene, who occasionally visited from a neighboring diocese; and Father Marcus Weber, who had conducted a series of retreats in the region that summer and fall. Father Donovan had passed away in 2013. Father Keene, now serving at a parish in Connecticut, expressed shock at the discovery of the journal and insisted he had never met privately with Sister Agnes. Father Weber proved more difficult to locate. Having left the priesthood in 2008, he had moved frequently in subsequent years. Parallel to tracking down Father M, investigators conducted forensic analysis of the journal itself. The binding, paper and ink were consistent with materials available in 2007. Handwriting experts confirmed the entries matched known samples of Sister Agnes's writing. Trace evidence found on the pages, pollen specific to northern New Hampshire and microscopic fibers matching the interior of the retreat cabin, supported its authenticity. But how had it traveled to Portland, and why had it surfaced now? The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A retired priest living in a care facility near Boston, Father Timothy Lawson, contacted authorities after seeing a news report about the discovered journal. He claimed to have information about Sister Agnes and Father M. "I've carried this knowledge too long," the elderly priest told Detective Reeves during their initial interview. "With the journal found, perhaps it's time for the full truth to emerge." According to Father Lawson, her Father M was indeed Marcus Weber, but he was not what he appeared to be. Weber, he alleged, had never been ordained as a Catholic priest. He had been using a false identity to gain access to religious communities throughout the Northeast, presenting himself as a visiting clergy member conducting research on monastic practices. His real name was Martin Weaver, Father Lawson explained. He had been a doctoral student in religious studies before being dismissed from his program for ethical violations, falsifying research data and inappropriate relationships with subjects. He created the Father Marcus persona to continue accessing religious communities for what he claimed was academic research. Father Lawson had discovered Weaver's deception in late 2007, but had confronted him privately rather than exposing him publicly. He promised to stop the charade and leave the area. I believed him and kept silent to avoid scandal. That silence has haunted me since I learned of Sister Agnes's disappearance. With this new information, investigators located Martin Weaver living under his real name in Montreal, Canada. When confronted with the evidence, Weaver offered a startling account of what had happened in October 2007. According to Weaver, he had indeed visited Sister Agnes at the retreat cabin, not with nefarious intent, but because she had reached out to him. She contacted me after one of my talks at the monastery that summer. She had questions about religious practices outside the Catholic tradition. We began a correspondence that continued into the fall. Weaver claimed that Sister Agnes had been experiencing what she termed a crisis of vocation, questioning her commitment to her order and exploring other spiritual paths. During his visit to the cabin, they had discussed the possibility of her leaving St. Catherine's to study comparative religion. But the storm provided an opportunity, Weaver stated in his formal interview. She had been afraid to face her community with her doubts. I offered to help her leave discreetly, to give her time to sort through her questions away from the pressures of the monastery. Weaver described driving Sister Agnes to Portland that night, where she stayed briefly in a small apartment he had rented near the university where he was then teaching under his real name. She left her journal in the cabin deliberately. She didn't want to be tracked, but also couldn't bring herself to destroy it. I returned to collect it later, but couldn't find it. I assumed someone from the monastery had already retrieved it. According to Weaver, Sister Agnes stayed in Portland for approximately 2 weeks before deciding to travel to a Buddhist monastery in Colorado that accepted visitors interested in comparative religious practice. She was searching for something, clarity, purpose, a different kind of connection with the divine. I don't know if she found it. Weaver claimed to have lost contact with Sister Agnes after she left for Colorado. She wanted a complete break from her past life, from me, from everything that might pull her back before she was ready to make permanent decisions. Investigators immediately followed this lead to the peaceful mountain monastery near Boulder, Colorado. Records confirmed that a woman using the name Anne Thornfield had stayed there as a visitor for nearly 3 months in late 2007 and early 2008. The monastery's current director, after viewing photographs, confirmed that Anne was indeed Sister Agnes Thorne. The trail continued from Colorado to New Mexico, where Anne Thornfield had briefly worked at a community art center, then to Arizona, where she had volunteered at a women's shelter. In each location, those who remembered her described a quiet, thoughtful woman who seemed to be working through some private spiritual journey. The final piece of the puzzle emerged from a small interfaith retreat center in Northern California. Records indicated that Agnes Thorne, now using her real name again, had joined their community in 2010 and remained there until 2017. The center's director, Dr. Eleanor Patel, provided the most comprehensive account of Agnes's life after leaving St. Catherine's. Agnes arrived here carrying the weight of her decision to leave her previous religious community. Dr. Patel explained. She never spoke ill of her Catholic experiences, but she was searching for a more personally authentic spiritual path. She found purpose here in our gardens and in mentoring younger seekers. According to Dr. Patel, Agnes had eventually established herself as a botanical illustrator, creating detailed drawings for scientific publications and nature guides. She had lived simply but contentedly, maintaining her spiritual practices while building a new identity apart from her former life as a nun. In 2017, Agnes had left the retreat center to accept a position at a university herbarium in Oregon, coincidentally near her brother's home. But according to Dr. Patel, Agnes had never contacted her family. She believed a clean break was kinder than a partial return. She feared they wouldn't understand her choices, and she couldn't bear their disappointment. The final revelation came from the university records. Agnes Thorne had worked at the herbarium until September 2021, when she had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of lymphoma. She had died in February 2022, just 4 months before her journal was discovered in Portland. But how had the journal traveled from the retreat cabin in New Hampshire to the cathedral bench in Maine 15 years later? The answer came from Sister Julia Santos, who had joined St. Catherine's Monastery in 2010. During the reinvestigation, she revealed that she had found the journal while helping to convert the retreat cabin into a chapel in 2012. Unsure what to do with such a personal item related to the monastery's most painful mystery, she had kept it private, occasionally reading it for insights into the woman whose disappearance had become a shadow over the community. When I was transferred to Portland earlier this year, I brought it with me, still uncertain what to do, Sister Julia explained. After much prayer, I decided to leave it where it might be found and recognized, a symbolic return of Sister Agnes to the church she had left, even if only in this small way. The journal's placement in June 2022 had been, by tragic coincidence, just months after Agnes Thorne's death, a death she had faced without the comfort of her original religious community or her family. In July 2022, Michael Thorne received a box of his sister's personal effects from the university where she had worked. Among them was a sealed letter addressed to my family at St. Catherine's, dated January 2022. In it, Agnes explained her decision to leave, her spiritual journey, and her regret at the worry she had caused. My departure was not a rejection of faith, but a search for its deeper meaning in my life, she wrote. I found that meaning in different places than I expected, but I carry the lessons of St. Catherine's with me always. Please forgive the manner of my leaving, if not the leaving itself. The case of Sister Agnes Thorne was officially closed in August 2022. What had been classified as a mysterious disappearance was reclassified as a voluntary departure. Yet for those who had searched for her, prayed for her, and wondered about her fate for 15 years, the resolution brought mixed emotions. She found her path, Sister Evelyn Porter, now 87, remarked when informed of the case's conclusion. It wasn't the one we would have chosen for her, but perhaps it was the one she needed. In the end, isn't that what all our seeking is about? The journal that had finally unlocked the mystery now rests in the archives at St. Catherine's Monastery, a reminder of a woman's complex spiritual journey and the thin line between disappearance and transformation. The retreat cabin, still serving as a chapel, has added a small memorial garden where visitors can reflect on their own paths and the courage required to follow them. Detective Reeves, in her final report, noted, "While this case lacked the elements of criminality we initially suspected, it reveals how thoroughly a person can disappear when they truly wish to, even in our connected age." Agnes Thorne didn't just leave a place. She left an identity and created another. Perhaps the most profound aspect is that the journal which eventually revealed her path was present from the beginning, hidden in plain sight, much like Agnes herself.